Welcome to the deep dive. So, you're joining us today. It sounds like you've got quite a background in Buddhist meditation across different traditions, right?
Mm.
And now you're curious specifically about Ajahn Buddhadasa's techniques. Well, you're in the right place. That's exactly what we're focusing on.
Yeah, definitely. Ajahn Buddhadasa, or Buddhadasa Bhikkhu as he's also known, he was, well, a really significant voice. A reformer, you could say, in recent Theravada thinking.
Okay.
He founded Swan Muk, the Garden of Liberation, way back in 1932 in Thailand. And his whole thing was pushing for this life focus, going back to the original Pali Suttas.
Right. Not just relying on later commentary.
Exactly. He felt things like the Visuddhimagga, while valuable, maybe had limitations. He wanted Dhamma understood for this life.
Okay. Got it. So let's get right to it. Our mission here is to really dig into the core of his meditation methods.
Hmm.
We'll be leaning heavily on his book, Mindfulness with Breathing, that seems key, and also his Dhamma talks, especially the Anapanasati series from dhammatalks.net.
Yeah, those talks are crucial. And we'll pull in some context from other works too, like The Life That Doesn't Bite and Heartwood of the Bodhi Tree on voidness. Plus, just understanding the feel of Swan Muk itself helps.
Okay, perfect. So we'll cover what the importance he puts on Anapanasati, the prep work, his take on those 16 steps, and the big ideas underneath it all, like voidness and dropping the I and mind.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
A real distillation of his approach.
All right. So let's dive straight in with what seems foundational. Anapanasati, mindfulness with breathing. It sounds like this wasn't just a practice for him, it was the practice.
Oh, absolutely central. And what's really striking is he didn't frame it as his system or even Swan Muk's unique thing.
Oh,
No, he was adamant this was the Buddha's own method, the original blueprint, if you like, for mental cultivation.
okay. That's a strong claim. And for you, coming from other traditions, his emphasis on it as the way to live in the present might resonate.
Yeah, he really hammers that home. The past,
Yeah.
just memory.
Mm-hmm.
The future, just projection. The only place life actually happens is right now. And the breath, well, it's always right now.
It's so direct, isn't it? Your breath is always there. No need for special gear, no retreat needed necessarily. He basically offers a portable anchor to the present, even when things are chaotic.
Exactly. And he connects this directly to easing selfishness. He saw that whole eyeing and mying tendency as the root problem.
Not just personal suffering, but like world conflict too.
Yeah, absolutely. Individual struggles, bigger conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
He traced it back to that clinging to self. So for him, peace starts inside with wise awareness of the breath, not just, treaties or external fixes.
That's a powerful way to look at it. Like the competitiveness, the arguments, maybe even violence. It's all fueled by this sense of a separate self that needs defending.
Hmm. And Anapanasati is the tool to start dismantling that illusion.
Okay.
And beyond just easing suffering, he saw it as the path to full human potential, reaching a life beyond dukkha, unlocking life's secrets, essentially.
And again, the practicality. He keeps pointing out, you can do this anytime, anywhere.
Right. Even his example of practicing on a noisy train, it just shows how adaptable he thought it was. The breath is your constant.
Okay, so Anapanasati is the absolute core, but you can't just jump in, right? What about getting ready? What preparatory stuff did he emphasize, especially for someone like you who already meditates?
Well, yeah, there are foundations. He talks about the place, the location.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet and peaceful is good, obviously.
Sure.
But he also stresses building the skill to practice even when it's not ideal. Yeah. Again, that practicality.
Makes sense. And posture, you've probably tried various ones. He had a specific recommendation.
He did. He liked the cross-legged lotus posture, Padmasana, for stability. She compared it to a pyramid, solid base.
Oh, okay.
But he wasn't rigid. He knew it takes time, training the body. Patience is key.
Interesting. And he also suggests meditating with eyes slightly open, gazing at the nose tip. What's the
Really?
thinking there?
That's a technique to help gather the mind initially. Establish some basic concentration samadhi. Focusing interest gently on one point helps tune out distractions without completely shutting down.
Okay. Now, beyond the physical setup, he puts a lot of weight on sila, moral discipline. How did that fit in?
Oh, hugely important. For him, sila wasn't just rules for monks, it was broader. Sense restraint, being mindful of what you take in through the senses. Purity of livelihood, making a living ethically. Using the basic requisites, food, shelter, etc., wisely.
So a strong ethical base calms the mind, makes it easier to practice.
Exactly. Hard to find peace if you're, wrestling with guilt or regrets from unethical actions. It creates mental noise.
That makes perfect sense. And his view on, like, paying homage to the Buddha, was it about rituals?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
He called true homage puja homage through practice.
Yeah.
And meditation for him was the highest form of practice, not just going through motions.
Right, practice over performance.
Yeah.
What about teachers? You mentioned Kalyanamitta, the good friend idea. How did he see that relationship?
Yeah, Kalyanamitta. A wise friend or advisor is helpful, someone with experience that can guide, answer questions. But ultimately, it's your own effort. He really stressed self-reliance. Don't become overly dependent on a teacher. The path is walked individually.
Okay, that sets the stage really well. Anapanasati is central, and you need this foundation of ethics, suitable conditions, and self-reliance. Now, the actual steps, the 16 steps, he breaks them down into 4 groups, the tetrads.
That's right. 4 tetrads, each with 4 steps, and they build on each other, moving focus from the body kaya, meaning the breath here, to feelings vedana, then the mind, citta, and finally tadama, the underlying truths.
Let's take the first one. Mindfulness of the body. Steps 1 to 4, all about the breath. As someone experienced, these might seem basic, but what was Buddhadasa's specific angle?
Well, steps 1 and 2 are knowing long breaths and knowing short breaths. It sounds simple, but it's about really getting intimate with your breath non-judgmentally.
Okay.
And he noted long breaths tend to be finer, calmer. Short breaths can be rougher, maybe linked to anger or upset.
Ah, so there's a practical use right away.
Yes, you can actually use the breath. If you feel anger rising, consciously lengthen the breath. It can directly counteract the physical and mental state.
Huh. That's very direct. Okay, then steps 3 and 4, experiencing the whole body and calming the bodily formation. How does that unfold?
Experiencing the whole body means the whole body of breath. Feeling its entire path, nose tipped down toward the navel and back out. A complete, holistic awareness.
Got it. And calming the bodily formation.
That's about refining the breath, making it more subtle. But crucially, he links this to calming wrong views about I and mine related to the body. Think of tension that's a bodily formation. Relaxing it isn't just physical. It chips away at identifying with that tension as me.
Okay, I see the connection. Moving deeper, the second tetrad then focuses on Vedana feelings, steps 5 through 8. What happens here?
Steps 5 and 6 are experiencing rapture, vidhi, and experiencing bliss, sukha. As the breath and body calm down, these pleasant states naturally arise.
Which sounds great, right?
Well, yes, but here's a nuance Buddhadasa pointed out, which might interest you. Piti, the rapture, can sometimes be quite energetic, almost restless. It can actually be an obstacle to deeper insight, vipassana.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas sukha, bliss, is calmer, more soothing. He saw it as more of a friend to deeper practice. The key is observing both, understanding their nature, regulating them, not getting attached.
That's a subtle but important distinction. Not all good feelings are equally helpful for insight.
Okay, then 7 and 8, experiencing mental formations and calming mental formations. How do these follow?
Feelings, Vedana, condition our mental reactions, thoughts, perceptions, intentions. These are the mental formations. Step 7 is becoming aware of these mental ripples that arise because of the feelings.
Like seeing the thought pop up right after the feeling?
Exactly. And step 8, calming them, involves continuing to refine the breath and just watching these perceptions and feelings without getting swept away, observing the patterns.
Okay, makes sense.
Ah.
We're halfway. Now the third tetrad, focusing on the mind itself, Sita, steps 9 to 12. Right. Step 9 is experiencing the mind. This means observing its qualities. Is it scattered, focused, agitated, calm? Are the thoughts wholesome or unwholesome? It's getting to know the nature of your own mind directly.
So less about the content, more about the state.
In a way, yes, understanding its tendencies. Then step 10 is gladdening the mind. Because you've calmed the body and mental formations, you now have more ability to actually influence the mind. You can direct it, cultivate calm, satisfaction, even joy. This makes the hind more capable.
So understand it first, then cultivate positive states. Steps 11 and 12 follow from that.
Step 11 is concentrating the mind, samadhi. But again, Buddhadasa's take is important. It's not necessarily rigid, unmoving stillness here. It's more like a mind that's unified, has positive qualities, is present, and ready to work effectively.
Especially after being gladdened.
A capable, ready mind. Yes. And step 12 is liberating the mind. This is actively letting go of what the mind clings to, things we love, things we hate, anything we grasp as I or mine. Understanding that attachment is that sense of I and mine, this is where we start really loosening those bonds.
Okay, that leads us right into the final tetrad, mindfulness of Dhamma, the truth itself. These last four steps sound like they get pretty profound.
They really do. Step 13 is contemplating impermanence, anakam. Now, you directly observe the changing nature of everything you've worked with. The breath, the body sensations, piti, sukha, the mind states, concentration, even those moments of liberation in step 12.
So it's not just knowing intellectually things change, but seeing it happen moment to moment in your experience.
Precisely. A deep experiential seeing of anakam in each aspect.
And what does that seeing lead to?
Step 14. Contemplating fading away, viraga. As that insight into impermanence deepens, the grip of attachment just naturally starts to fade. Viraga is that experience of detachment growing. It leads to equanimity, a non-clinging towards anything you might have previously identified as I or mine. Freedom from the push and pull.
It follows logically. If it's constantly changing, what's there to permanently attach to?
Okay, then step 15. Contemplating cessation, nirodha. This sounds like the goal line for many.
It is in a very real sense.
Yep.
Nirodha means the complete stopping, the cessation of dukkha, of suffering, and the attachments that fuel it. Buddhadasa equates this directly with nibbana.
Wow.
It's the end of that deep-seated fear around birth, aging, sickness, death. It's the quenching of desire and aversion at the root. It's experiencing the utter voidness of attachment.
That's very, profound. And there's one more step, 16. Contemplating throwing back, patina saga. What does that add? Patina saga. Throwing back or giving back. It's like the final, complete relinquishment.
Right.
Fully letting go of everything that was clung to, acknowledging nothing was ever truly ours to begin with. The final seal on letting go.
Wow. Okay, so that's the 16-step journey, from simple breath awareness to ultimate letting go. Now let's circle back to those underlying principles you mentioned earlier. These seem critical to understanding his whole perspectives, especially for you with your background. You highlighted voidness, Sunyata.
Yes, absolutely fundamental. His term was often paramam sunam, perfect voidness. Now, you probably encountered emptiness concepts before. Buddhadasa's emphasis was very specific. Voidness means utterly empty of eyeing and mying.
Empty of self and ownership.
Exactly. That is nibbana for him. He contrasted this with ideas you might find elsewhere about some kind of true self. For Buddhadasa, the absolute core insight is nothing whatsoever should be clung to as I or mine. That, he said, is the heartwood of Buddhism.
That's crystal clear, and potentially quite challenging. And he linked this eyeing and mying to a kind of spiritual disease.
He did. He saw it as this dangerous inherent disease that makes us see, think, speak, and act falsely. It generates suffering constantly, moment to moment. The Dhamma and practices like anapanasati are the cure.
So from his viewpoint, when we act out of ego getting angry, being selfish, that's not freedom, that's a symptom of the disease.
Precisely. Real freedom, he argued, is transcending the ego, getting beyond those self-centered reactions and the suffering they bring.
He also talked about foolish feeling versus wise feeling. That seems like a really practical distinction for navigating emotions.
Foolish feeling is when we react to sense contact out of ignorance, and it leads straight to craving, tanha. Wise feeling comes from correct understanding, correct knowledge, and leads to wise wants desires that align with the path, not just more craving. Cultivating that wisdom around feeling is crucial.
And he managed to boil down all of Buddhist knowledge into just two basic facts. How did he simplify it like that?
He essentially said it comes down to understanding two things. Compounded things, sankhara, basically everything that arises and passes away, characterized by impermanence, anti-com. And the uncompounded thing, asankhara, also called the numanan, or nibbana, which is permanent only in the sense that it's unborn, unconditioned, beyond change.
So understand the difference between the transient and the timeless, essentially.
That's the core of it. Grasping those two realities is key to the whole path, in his view. How does that kind of simple framing strike you, given your own practice? Does it cut through complexity?
It certainly provides a stark contrast to focus on.
Yeah.
Interesting. And lastly, he mentioned the 5 necessities of life. His take was about simplicity.
Yes. Clothing, shelter, food, medicine, and even spiritual resources. His point was to use them correctly, simply, purely, to support Dhamma practice. No excess, no attachment that fuels more selfishness. You see that reflected in Sonmukh itself. Very simple, functional.
It really does all seem to come back to that steady, gradual approach. He warned against rushing through anapanasati.
Absolutely. He really stressed taking it one step at a time. Be satisfied with where you are. Master that step before moving on. Don't try to jump ahead or do multiple steps at once. That just causes confusion. Let it unfold naturally.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. We've seen Buddhadasa's laser focus on anapanasati as the Buddha's own method. We've covered the need for sila and the right conditions. We've walked through his detailed take on the 16 steps, moving from body to feelings, mind, and finally, truth. And we've touched on those bedrock principles: voidness, freedom from I and mine.
And for you, with your background and specific interest in Buddhadasa, his systematic, practical, yet deeply profound map of Anapanasati offers, well, a really potent path. A way to deepen your own practice, aiming for that greater presence and freedom from ego he talks about.
So maybe the final thought for you to carry into your practice is this. Just notice, in your daily life, how pervasive is that habit of I and mine? How often does it crop up? And could this simple, steady observation of the breath, the way Ajahn Buddhadasa taught it, really be a practical tool to gently loosen those knots, those attachments, bit by bit? Perhaps exploring his writings further, or even visiting a place like Swanmok if possible, could offer more direct insight.
Exactly. May your continued exploration bring you deeper wisdom and real peace.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.